states where turkeys are more prominent, one can go through America's forests and throughout farms and hear these sounds very often. But here in New Jersey, this is a much more rare occurrence. Turkeys do have an established population in the state of New Jersey, one large enough to hunt. To do this, people often use turkey calls, such as the one in my hand, to emulate their sounds. I've been using these kinds of calls as long as I remember, both to hunt and out of boredom. I remember a long time ago, when I wasn't doing anything, I would be laying on my bed just messing with the call to make different sounds, just to keep myself busy throughout the day. Using a turkey call is not just something silly thing that hunters and rednecks do. It is considered by many to be an art form, with national championships held for who can best copy the sounds of live, wild turkeys. And people who win these contests get exorbitant amounts of money and awesome prizes. So it's not just some worthless sound. If you really wanted to, you can be an expert at this after the speech today. You can go win a lot of money. Learning how to use a turkey call only takes a few short minutes. First, you need to have a call. This particular one that I'm holding is called the slate call. You also need the stylus that goes with the specific call that you have. As I have here, 3 different calls with 3 different pens, just because the combination often can determine what kind of sound and the quality of the sound that you create. So, today, I'm going to explain how this very little thing can be used to make very lifelike sounds and explain to you all how to make some of the most basic turkey noises. How do slate calls work? This is an important question because you can't effectively learn how to use one if you don't know how they work. Well, this file is one of the most basic kinds that there are. It's similar designs have been found up to be from 6500 BC, and these modern versions were started to be created around the early 1900s. So what happens is you hold this item in your hand, like so, with your fingertips around the edge, your thumb on the rim, and with an empty space between your palm and the bottom, so that the air, when you make the sound, can echo out and fill the room, or in this case, or in the normal case, the woods, or wherever you're making the call. Then, you hold the stylus or the striker like you would a normal pen. You then put, depending on what sound you're trying to create, put the striker on the surface and you do the required motion. There are several different kinds that I'm going to demonstrate. How do you correctly use these things? Well, normally, you would take a piece of sandpaper and rub both the surface of the call and the surface of the pen. This makes it so there's a better sound that it's created. Now, I already have these items pre-prepared because I had the sandpaper at home and forgot to bring it with me today. But they're pre-prepared and ready to go. You can also use Scotch-Brite as any kind of paper with a rough surface can be used to roughen up the surface of the calls a little bit. Next, like I said, you have to hold the pot in your hand just like this, with this kind of gap right here. Otherwise, if you hold it flat, you don't really get the same sound. Also, you have to be very careful not to touch the surface, this part right here with your hands, or the tip of your striker. And this is very important because the oils on your hands over time will actually damage them and you won't be able to get the same sounds after a while. So if you want your calls to last a while, you need to be very careful and be sure not to touch the surface of your call with your hand. You also want to keep these in a dry, cool area, similar to most products, and you want to make sure it doesn't get wet too often. Some people, when they use them, and it's maybe a rainy day, they may cover it with a plastic bag, or if it's out in the rain, they'll dry it off immediately after they're done hunting for the day, just so it doesn't get ruined. This is key to making them last a very long time. Now, the correct way to use the striker. You put your hand on the edge of the call, and you make your motions just using your wrist. You don't want to use your whole arm. You don't want to use your entire hand. You don't want to use your fingers. You want to just move your wrist. You want to make the smallest amount of movement possible, especially in a hunting situation. What kind of sounds can you make with this call? Now, there are several different sounds that you can make, but many of them are complex. Now, the iconic turkey gobble is one of the very few sounds that can't be made with one of these calls. However, some claim, after years and years of practice, that it can be done. But for most, they can only do a select few sounds. I'm going to show you all the 3 most basic turkey sounds that you can make with one of these. And they're really the only 3 that you could ever need in a practical situation. The first is called the yelp. Now, the yelp is a sound that turkeys make in groups to communicate with each other, just to say, hey, I'm here, I'm just chilling out. So, what you do is you take your striker, you put the edge of it on the slate, and you move it in small ovals around the ball. Now, it's very important that you hold the striker at about approximately a 45-degree angle away from you, because otherwise, if you don't, you get that thing. So also, what you don't want to do is you don't want to apply too much pressure. Now you really don't have to, but if you do, it doesn't really make a sound. So you have to find the right balance of pressure to get your sound. Also, next is going to be called the cluck. This is kind of similar to the yelp. However, it needs to be held straight up instead, and you come just straight down on the call instead of going in ovals. Like I said before, you don't want to apply too much pressure. Alright, now this last sound that you can make is called the purr. Now the purr is another sound effect that turkeys use in groups to communicate with each other, just to say that they're relaxed, there's really no danger present at the time. So what you do is it's similar to the cluck. You hold it kind of a little bit farther away from you, a little bit more pressure, and you just drag it along. So, you can take this sound effect and you can combine it with the cluck, and it makes what's called a cluck purr sound effect, which just adds to the realism of what you're trying to do. So this is just another sound that turkeys make. So in conclusion, using a turkey call is very easy. It just takes a few short steps and a few items that can range from $15 to $20 all the way upwards of hundreds of dollars. These here, they're not high-end ones. They're only maybe $20, $30. But like I said, some of the higher class ones can be made of different metals, fiberglass, actual glass. These are made of slate, and they can cost a lot more money. You need a stylus pen that will come with your call, and you just need to remember what I taught today. Just some basic hand motions, and just remembering your form is all you need to do to be able to use a turkey call. Thanks for listening, guys.